Шановні колеги,
Esteemed colleagues, today within framework of the Ukrainian Media Center of Reforms, we're going to talk about the platform for supporting energy efficiency. It's been on the lines for a number of years in Ukraine, and every government tries to make its own contribution to that. Sometimes it is being slowed down. And Gennady Zubko the other day was here and said that the government approved the decision that they are going to compensate 70% of the cost of the energy efficiency measures, which has to promote the savings in energy, how it works in reality, about the advantages and disadvantages of this reform. This is the topic our esteemed experts are going to talk today. I give the floor to Roman Zinchenko, Tatiana Gutko, and their colleagues who are going to introduce themselves and tell us how it really works. You have the floor, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you again for the fact that you are touching upon this very important topic. My name is Roman Zinchenko. I represent here the public organization, the Ukrainian Network of Energy Innovations Green Incubator. We specialize in the topics of the breakthrough technologies in energy, startups, and new energy opportunities, plus energy culture. I would like to start with a very important thing which pertains to energy efficiency, energy state, public policy in this sphere, which is related to innovations. Unfortunately, we have to continue to say that the biggest innovation has to take place in the energy sector of Ukraine is the just using to common sense, not as an exception, but a mass scale phenomenon, because today we still find ourselves as a hostage of a very harmful, hazardous, and let's say, models of energy. The period we are living through, the transition period we are living through, makes provision for the following: that the energy services fastly become the commercial goods, a commodity. But the general political narrative and the ideology of many communications of the state try to put the energy in the sphere of the rights, of social benefits, and some other things like that. In order for us to be successful, not without the challenges and problems, but so can go through the next winter period, we have to do a very important thing. The state has to say no to its illusion as a major savior and the major player on the energy market. The state has to stop to send to our citizens the dangerous signal that we are going to resolve everything and you have a warm apartments. This is the key lie until the ordinary people come with the realm. We are going to have those challenges comparing to which the Alchevsk catastrophe, if not mistaken, the year 2007, will be something, this will dwarf actually that catastrophe. We came to the edge of exhausting the opportunities and possibilities of many hit networks, and we are still living in a paternalistic model, and they expect that tomorrow the mayor, the president, or the prime minister will guarantee their exclusive rights. When we are talking about the innovations in the energy sector and the public program of energy efficiency, one of the most loud or graphic signals which has to be sent by the state, but they failed to do that so far, we are talking about the models of behavior, model of interaction. What difficulties we face within those programs about which the Prime Minister was talking quite recently, and which is in the mouths of many other government people. Very often, rather often than not, we do not see ordinary citizen in those programs as the major agent. Let's talk about the Ukrainian economy. A lot has been created by our money, mine and yours. For example, the internet sector, retail sector, many other spheres. Just imagine what we would have if we had the Minister of Internet. The major innovation which we can may happen in the energy sector is just to follow those postulates which Kaspar Benefitzer founded when he said that I do not believe in natural monopolies. I cannot say any natural monopolies. The only thing we can say that provide the possibility to work with money for ethical companies, for the some managing company in the house and square, etc. Until the state policy can provide the millions of Ukraine to reach the shopping area, and we will continue to talk about we'll have a lot of companies which will have the chance to select from as the best one. And now I believe that my colleague Iryna from the 7 banks will tell you about the parameters of funding and financing. A critical moment is like that. We have to pay attention to the point of the acutest pain. We are talking about the multi-flat buildings, and Tatiana Boykova is going to talk about that more. Today we are too much focusing our attention on the boilers, and by doing that we can repeat the error committed by Poland in the beginning of this century when they invested a lot of the energy generation, but not into the energy saving or the consumption, let's say, consumption of the energy the way it should be. We need to introduce some of the alternatives in the model of consumption. First of all, we need a change when we are talking about the, let's say, the spotted heating, and we have to invest in the real integral system of heating. We have to turn this market into the market of consumers and not the sellers. And when we do that, the situation will improve to some extent. In number 3, we have to stimulate actively the social innovations and support the best of them. Honestly speaking, not everybody will live through this winter without without freezing. Those who didn't take care of their basements or their heat engineering networks or heating networks, maybe they will not live through this winter comfortably. Maybe they will. The temperature in their houses and apartments will be too low. And the task of the government is to form such models when the consumer comes the ally of investor, not just sits on his or her hands waiting for some social benefits. When a person invests, it can take more paybacks than it can expect. We do not expect the public to take care of the repair of our car or the dentist services. The same if we're talking about waiting for benefits from the real estate, the kind of toxic model. We have to say goodbye to this toxic model because we do not know how many elevators are there, or the, let's say, number of the kilometers of the heat networks. When we are thinking about investing into the services, we'll have a better payback from that. Well, if I understood it properly, you propose to take the citizens from the comfort zone, and you offered them to take the road in their hands, fish and rod, and not expect the fish to be given to them. Thank you, Roxanne. But in order to save the citizens, they are taken out of the comfort zone is one of the key prerequisites. The sooner we do that, the better, because the cold winter was kind of nightmare to us, and we lost the summer, the possibility to do something. Thank you very much. Now we'll give the floor to your colleague from the 7 bank to enter our discussion. Say what are the tools and instruments for those who would like to leave this zone comfort.
Oshchadbank Good afternoon. I'm representing Oshchadbank, and I would like to point your attention to the program of credits and loans to those who wish to strengthen energy efficiency of their housing. We have launched this program in April this year. The program is developed by the State Agency on Energy Efficiency, and 3 banks, including our bank, has signed an agreement with the agency that we will cover 40% of loans for strengthening energy efficiency in houses. For example, the boiling the heating plant in a residential building, in a multi-storied residential building, is quite expensive, and people in the condominium this we understood from quite often communication with people. Actually, 25%, at least 25% of people receive subsidies from the government to pay their utility bills. 68% of people in our country live in multi-storied buildings, and around 70% or even more of those buildings require considerable overhaul and reconstruction. While people are almost exhausted with the economic crisis in the country, and we quite clearly understand that giving a loan to people is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue will be to pay this loan back, and for the bank to get its money back, and it's under these conditions, we understand that we should not seek commercial benefits from these loans. The interest rate established by the National Bank is 30%. While these credits we offer with the interest rate at 23.5%. This demonstrates that our commercial business interest is not present here, but understanding that this is a program of big importance, and for us, we quite often play the function, act as an administrator and carry out the function of administrators. Also, we should keep in mind that many people are not aware how to dispose, how to manage their houses. In late July, the new law was passed, and this law stipulates that within a year, all the houses, all residential houses, will be handed either to the residents of the house, or local authorities will appoint the managing company, and this managing company will act in its capacity and to the extent it can do this. That's why people need to be educated, and some 20 years ago, the Sweden authorities were thinking about similar problem, and they started to speak about energy efficiency with school children, and in decade they have grown up the generation which understands the problem and is ready to do something. Let us come back to the crediting program. The previous program was about repayment of the 40% of credit body. And would you please comment about the novelties in this year and how you expect this program will work, and what is the difference with this new program passed by the government and which was presented by Gennady Zubko? I believe that the crediting program should be designed not just for 1 year but for 5 years. Currently, the existent program, the condominium represented by a chairman of the board of this condominium, applies to the bank stating that they are planning energy efficiency measures, and we review this application and come to some decision. What do we check? We check the the statute documents and then financial situation of this condominium, whether they pay accurately, etc. If we see that the condominium regularly pays up to 85% of its bills, then we can make decision that they are in favorable financial situation. Then the stage comes when they develop their project documentation and pay attention. We pay for the bank, and we pay for the materials and equipment. The works should be covered by the condominium. And when all the construction work is done, we receive from the lender the documentation that they have used this money, and the construction object is functioning. There should be special state declaration. Then we submit these documents to the energy efficiency agency. Then the entry to the new energy efficiency register, new entry is processed by the experts from the energy efficiency agency. They within 1 month they pay money back to the bank, and within another month we pay 40% for the equipment and materials. Am I right when I understand that the lender anyway has to pay for everything, but later the money are compensated to this lender?
Well, at least in Saving Bank there is such a means as the issuance and settlement. We allow the borrower not to take the whole amount of money. We understand they cannot use it immediately, but to take that sum of money within the year period of time, tranche by tranche, in order to have this kind of 100% burden. And then within some period of time, they do not have to actually to settle the body of the loan and just pay it by portion, so to say, by installment. And there is a special schedule when the months from month to month, some of these for the money to be paid back. It doesn't change. In order to, in addition to the 40% of compensation, they can revisit the schedule based on the request of the client. They can extend it the period up to 5 years, or we actually leave unchanged the payment of the loan if it can be done by the borrower, so they can fit within 3 years, for example. So the State Efficiency Committee pays to you the money without any delay, so the people, the borrowers, cannot be afraid that they will remain with that compensation, the part of state. Thank you. Well, just another point of comment. You were talking about that there is no delay. We are talking about the current budgetary year. I would like to draw attention to the following. If the 2016 budget year doesn't provide for that, then we'll have the problems. As far as I know, that in the Energy Efficiency Committee, they are working actively in order to extend that program till the next year. I would like to give the floor to Tatiana Vova. Maybe she will tell more about that, because she more often works with the residents of condominiums. How efficient it works. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Tatiana Boyk. I'm coordinator of the housing programs of the public organization, All-Ukraine organization Opora, and also I'm part of the RPR, and one of those people who authored the so-called program for promotion of energy efficiency, and we worked with a team actually which first was the inventor of this program and then tried to implement that, because unfortunately it took quite a long period of time, and indeed we plan to launch this program not during this heating period but even during the previous period, in order for us this year already to see the strong and weak points of this program and come to necessary conclusions. The condominiums, for the majority of the people, according to the results of our study, maybe 50%, at least 45% of the citizens of Ukraine, and those figures, or this name, condominiums, doesn't mean anything. Unfortunately, the previous speaker said that the biggest problem is as follows. Over 23 years, the government told the people, do not worry, we are going to take care of you. Your task is your own apartment, and we know the situations very often when there is a repair done, very expensive windows, very good furniture, but let's say the stairwell is really dilapidated. The stench, some of the stray dogs and cats living and everything is a lot of garbage, whatever. And there are a lot of buildings like that all over Ukraine. This is really a big problem to us. Not only they do not look good, the matter is that they consume the energy twice or maybe thrice sometimes, and the similar buildings in the neighboring countries like Poland or the Baltic states. Why do that? Those huge losses at the level of the building proper. Since the majority of the buildings were built still in the Soviet times, between 1946 or the end of the 1970s, those buildings were not, let's say, they did not take care in some kind of energy efficiency. We had a very cheap gas in those days, and when the Europe started to think about the energy efficiency or energy saving as a strategic component of their economic independence, in this country nobody even started to talk about that. Nobody thought about that. And the first buildings, which were at least more or less start to meet the European standards. I mean, the first approximation, because Europe always revisits those standards. We are not talking about meeting their standards. Their standards are closer to passive buildings. We cannot even dream about that now. We can talk only about those standards which were introduced in 1990s in Europe. In such buildings we start to build after the 2006 in the best case, not always, because we do not know the condition of those buildings which the construction workers or companies report that they've been built. And the most of the energy is lost within buildings, between 30 up to 60 and sometimes 70%, and we are taking the average buildings because you have new and old. This figure will amount to 65% of losses of energy in the heat. We are talking about this potential energy saving within as an average building. And this problem does not only pertain to the condominiums, but we have the owners and those who purchased the apartment in the city or in countryside, or those who have the private house, and they never thought that they will have to approach the mayor of the city of Kyiv, the chairman of the village council, and ask them to buy a new boiler for them or to take care of repairing the roofs. Actually, they were thinking mostly where they're going to provide the heat in their houses according to burning the wood, firewood in their ovens or whatever. In my village, where I was growing, nobody was thinking about the situation we're living through now in this country. And as far as I know, it's policy of gasification. The regional council still report about the gasification in some of the villages which do not require that kind of attentional gasification. So the people in the villages more or less think, and Ukrainians are hard-working people and intelligent people. They try to leave for themselves the ovens, I mean firewood ovens, for instance. Let's say only 50% of the Ukrainians understand that they are co-owners of the common property, like multi-flat, multi-apartment buildings, according to the civil code. They bear the responsibility for the upkeep and the repair of this property. And accordingly, it's such a surprise to the people, which they encountered when they increased the tariffs for the communal services, and due to the galloping of inflation, we never expected, nobody expected that, and the tariffs for natural gas still have to be increased, or need to be increased, because we are talking about bringing it to the economic plane or social plane. Neither country, non-country of the world, has money to subsidize the energy sector. Can we come back closer to the topic of our briefing? You actually communicate with the, let's say, those thinking people or the owners of condominiums. How actively they are involved in this program? Could you give some figures and dynamics, how much they are satisfied with what's going on, and what proposals they make, what we have to pay attention more to what I mean, because I heard that they are not happy with the bureaucracy in place. We had a representative of Oshchadbank half a year ago. They said that there is let's say, there is supply, there is no demand. So is this situation still similar to that, or something has changed?
The first problem which we wanted to present here, that a big part of Ukrainian population do not understand what's the matter, and there is only 20% of population have established condominium in their houses. The majority, that is, the rest, 80%, has no idea how to carry out energy efficiency measures. And here the bank loans are not a panacea. Actually, even condominium were not prepared for the bank loans on energy efficiency measures. There is a rather poor trust to banking system, and for condominium it would be better to get money from the state or from local governments directly. And when we speak about bank loans, we understand that they were not ready. This was too advanced, excessively advanced approach for them. Fortunately, some time ago, the state policy was formulated, and some condominiums requested for the loans, for the bank loans from Oshchadbank, from Metabank, from Lviv Bank. These were the first condominiums, but at that time the maximal interest rate was 25%. In Lviv the highest, and in the rest of the banks it was even lower, around 17%. When the state program was adopted, what creates disincentives for condominium. First of all, high interest rate, which could be decreased in case of competition. As of the moment, we have just 2 banks who offer such loans. If a state program would be designed for all the banks and compensate body loan for all the banks offering such bank products, then probably there would be competition and lower interest rates. But when the as soon as such program is passed, the demand for loans could be immediately started. For example, in Lutsk, during 1 month, the program immediately started to work. Later, other condominium joined the program. Do you have any statistics? As of today, there are 11 loans which were given to condominium, and they are realized already into the projects. There is a big number of applications in the banks. What is the biggest problem? For a long time, the state program was designed in a way that loans are repaid for those who take loan for boilers, and the biggest problem now is that it is a short-term state program which is designed for just 1 year. in order to coordinate the relations between the Ministry of Finance, the banks, etc., it should be longer, and due to budget process, the program has to be approved this autumn for the next year, and these delays with the official recognition of the program, with the official passage of the program adoption, and the budgeting process, which has to allocate money to the Ministry of Finance for compensation. And there is always a fear that compensation, that payment of compensation will be delayed. This year, this procedure also took some time, and today the banks are ready to give these loans, and only in Lutsk there are condominium, and many people still wait. And Yulia Sabatyuk announced that State Energy Efficiency Agency compensates money, and people welcomed this decision very gladly. And another problem is a state register. Quite often, the data which come to the energy efficiency, they are not in proper shape to repay money, and the agency does not have enough people, employers and employees, and they are unable to pay money to the bank.
Yeah, and indeed, if the register is properly formed, immediately the funds are coming and there is no problem. Tatiana, thank you very much for a most exhaustive report. Maybe there are some questions from journalists, but I would like to give the floor to Mr. Cherkash, an energy efficiency expert platform member. He will tell us more about those program. We would like to hear your point of view how this program is going to work next year. Good afternoon. I would like to reduce the degree of optimism and come back to the realities. I'm a realist myself, you know. Before coming to this microphone, I consulted with the savings bank. 5 loans were issued for the condominiums, and 4 are still being worked on. Taking into consideration that we have the several million of economies, we can say that, as mathematicians say that this amount is close to zero. We could do that unless we had a lot of problems from the very beginning. Tatiana was right to say that the major the negative factor is the high interest rate for the loans for the consumers. And our Eastern European neighbors, well, Germany doesn't belong to the Eastern European countries, but all of them lived through that, took this way, to this road. I mean, they resolved the problem that the loan programs were offered was a minimum interest for the loans. In Baltic states, we have this amount between 2 and 4% interest. I mean, the implementation period is 8 to 10 years, and the energy consumer cannot be in a way implemented by the day of the payback within 4 or 5 years. This is not realistic physically even. And that's my position from the very beginning, which I actually offered to the energy efficiency management, was as follows. This government had to take the minimum interest for the target-oriented loans, and to do that, the state has two instruments, the National Bank and the Minister of Finance, which have official, not so official, means how to influence the policy pursued by the banks, and they could do that, to put the problem to the shoulders by let's say, making the interest cheaper and make it the burden of local budget. This is at least not fair. They do not have such tools like the saving banks or gas banks or Exim Bank. There was the experience amassed by the city of Lviv, which in due time started to issue such loans with a cheaper target-oriented interest loans. I mean, it shows that the local level, they can resolve this problem with the local banks. So I believe that if it would be possible for the Minister of Finance and the National Bank to resolve this issue with the national banks, if there is a policy, was a governmental policy. Next point, they spend the public budget money for this program. No, they do not do that. They spend the money of our European partners who actually provide us a kind of grant for the free of charge, I mean, for the energy efficiency program to be implemented. This was done about 2 years ago, and only now this program starts to take very small steps. And unfortunately, the amount of money which was given to Ukraine was converted under a very strange exchange rate, which make them less than the 500 million hryvnia. When the program was launched, the money was absolutely different, I mean, the figure. But this is not the issue to the question to ourselves. When that money was eaten up, they did not actually create the tool for energy efficiency I'm talking to eat up the money, that doesn't take too much intelligence. They had to use that program to launch the program, and they had to think about the replenishment of those funds at the expense of some other elements, components. One of those components which was created the target-oriented surcharge on the secondary gas consumption, and actually they never spent a single hryvnia for the energy efficiency. Though this is a guaranteed contribution, and when we were talking about the target-oriented surplus, and this is the source of the, like it's done in other countries, they did not do that in Ukraine. Next point. What they also, the big mistake committed by the governmental bodies before the launch of this program, the state energy efficiency eliminated their territorial agencies, increasing the number of the personnel, the central agencies. They had to write jobs for their colleagues, and they started to resolve that problem by increasing the number of the personnel. So they lost the verification of the results of the program. I'm talking about that. So I'd like to draw attention to the efficiency of the cabinet ministers. The prime minister, they report about the amount of money, number of the borrowers, but nobody says how those borrowers or the number of the issued loans that they are directly associated with the amount of the gas. They do not have this figure because there is no verification of the data. Well, this is really important, but I would like to announce we are going to have a lot of different events dedicated to energy efficiency. It's impossible within the framework of one briefing to cover all the problems. So we decided to focus on the program which we have today and talk about its advantages and disadvantages, where we can still improve, and so that it is understood by the borrowers who are the immediate users, so to say. If you can focus your attention on those questions, if you have some specifics, would be nice to hear about that. How can improve the program? I try not to criticize it, try to make proposals. Unfortunately, my proposals do not reach the ears of those who have to listen to them or hear that, and somehow they perceive that as a criticism. What hasn't been implemented within this program? There is no link between the issuance of a loan and the let's say the recording of the consumption in this building. Otherwise, all those funds will be wasted. You create more comfortable conditions, but it will not tell upon your payments. So then, number one, which had to be resolved in the condominium or condominia, they had to install the heat consumption meter. Without that, we cannot talk about the further progress of this program. Next point, I do not really understand the mistake on part of the Gorom is the fact that all our multi-story buildings have been built based on the project of the series construction series. We do not have the individual project of design buildings, maybe in St. Kiev and some other cities. So it would be really important for the Minister of Region to spend some of their money to drop some of their comprehensive projects and to make them accessible for the condominiums, for them to choose the model of modernization which actually can fit within their budget.
Instead of this, each condominium has to develop its own energy efficiency design for the old building, and they have to waste money. The typical design the model design will cost up to 5% of the project documentation. That is, the condominium will pay just 5% of the future project for competent design. Also, today, the condominium has to choose the cheapest energy efficiency project instead of the most efficient. And in Europe, they know that the energy modernization of the building should be at the level of 200 euro per each square meter, and only under this condition the energy modernization will be efficient. While today, when people choose the cheapest designs, they simply makes harm to the buildings. Why the so-called Khrushchev buildings are so vulnerable for the cold? Because they used the plastic materials which are not resistant to wet, and today these buildings built up in the period between 1960s, 1970s, they are in the worst condition. This only demonstrates that public awareness campaign should be launched today, and it should cover the clear explanation what does the energy efficiency, energy modernization mean. First, measuring devices, then the heating devices, then the change of ventilation vent system in the building, and later stage should be devoted to modernization of the internal heating network. in order to create vent systems in each apartment, then increase warm insulation in the upper, in the loft and in the underground premises in the building, and at later stage to do the final works. Unfortunately, the State Energy Efficiency Agency has liquidated its territorial branches, and they are not ready to do this type of work. Thank you for your extensive explanation today. We heard a very professional opinion. Just one comment. I agree with my colleague. What is the idea of the condominium? This is a self-governing body. It is based on the will of the people, of the residents of this condominium, and the people would never decide for the worst. They choose the better from the solutions offered in the market. We plan to hold an event where those condominium which have already made use of loans, bank loans, and describe their experience. Each condominium has its own criteria, targets, and during the heating season they will see on our Facebook page, which is called Житло, we present infographics where we show those heating energy saving targets. My colleague was right when he mentioned that you can reach nothing with just warming of the walls. And the energy saving targets could be at the level 50–60%, and this conference which I mentioned will be soon. I invite you.
I'd like to say that Ukrainian Crisis Media Center would be happy to invite those people, would be happy to see those successful stories actually inspire us, and they are better than a lot of words or interviews. Dear colleagues, unfortunately our time is up. Should you have any other questions to our speakers, you can communicate beyond the premises of beyond these premises, and this is within the framework of the program which we implement with the support of the government of Sweden, and we are going to have a lot of similar briefings like that. The working day of today has been completed, so please follow our announcement.